Hello, my name is Kevin, and you're listening to Call Kevin.
It's the Call Kevin podcast. It's the podcast of your dreams. It's the Call Kevin podcast. Don't ask him things. Podcast Kevin with Call Kevin.
Here we are for yet another episode of Call Kevin. It's my weekly call-in show where you go to my website, kevinjamesthornton.com, and leave a question or a comment to be used on a future episode of Call Kevin. It's super easy. You just press record and start talking. This week, I put out sort of a prompt for people to tell me about a bad date or an embarrassing story. And so that's largely what we have for today. We'll see how it goes to have more of a theme, a topic. We'll see if you like it or not. I think it's going to have a little bit of a different vibe than the hodgepodge we normally are in. Let's see how it goes. If you are interested at all in coming to see my live comedy show, this week I'm going to be in Austin, Texas at Cap City Comedy. I'll be at Bricktown Comedy in Oklahoma City and Bricktown Comedy in Tulsa. And then May 4th, I'll be at the Raleigh Improv. There's a ton of more shows coming up after that. My full schedule is on my website as well, kevinjamesthornton.com. I've been looking at spaces, storefronts in my neighborhood. Some of you know I'm opening a place called Shamala Hamala. It's a weird concept. It's part art gallery. It's part performance space. It's part hangout spot. And every time I walk into a new space that's available in my neighborhood, my vision shifts a little bit because I start imagining moving into that space, and everything I've looked at has been so different. So I've got to make some choices. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about this later in the show, but I'm looking at 2 more spaces tomorrow afternoon, and then I think I have to make a decision. Oh my God, you guys. Anyway, I'll tell you more about that in a little bit. I think we should just dive right into whatever this show is going to be, bad dates and embarrassing stories.
Oh my gosh, the first embarrassing story that comes to mind is whenever I was in high school. I believe I was out of the closet, and my mom said that we were going to Ohio to celebrate my uncle's business achievement. And when we got to the parking lot and we met with my cousins, she read us this poem that she wrote. And I don't remember how the whole poem went. She was like, I don't mean to sound cruel and I don't mean to be twisted, but this afternoon we're going to see Wicked. And I wept. In this parking lot, I just wept. And then if the showcase of emotion is not the embarrassing part, what is then embarrassing is that I was so excited to go see Wicked that getting out of the car, I ripped my pants. And the first time that so that's what I think about. And everybody remembers how I split my pants because I was so excited to go see Wicked.
I'm guessing this is a live production in Ohio? You were that excited? Surely it wasn't the movie. It was a good movie. I can see why you wept and ripped your pants. I saw Wicked on Broadway in New York. It was not with Christian Chenoweth and Adele Dazeem. That was cute. Thanks for sharing that with us.
So I meet this guy on a dating app. We agree to a first date. He picks me up. We go to the restaurant. It's super chill. He's nice. We get to talking about our hobbies. And I mentioned that I do photography. And instantly, his eyes light up in excitement. And that should have been my first red flag. And then he says to me, do you want to see my portfolio? I do photography too. And I was like, sure, yeah, show me. And he whips out his cell phone and looks to the left and looks to the right to make sure no one is looking. That was red flag number 2. And then he holds it under the table and pulls up just dick pic after dick pic after dick pic and is narrating them as he's showing it to me. Here's one of his penis wearing a tiny hat. Here's one with a sepia filter. Here's one that's in black and white, shot at f1.4 with a super blurry background. And I sit here and subject myself to this for reasons that are really unclear to me. But in that moment, I just froze and watched dozens of artistic images of his penis. And the only thing I could think was, oh my God, I have to ride home with this man.
Oh no. So was it, not to turn it into a heavy thing, but is that, if you didn't ask for that, is that non-consensual? I kind of feel like it is. I mean, it sounds like you weren't offended in any way. But if someone just starts showing you explicit photos of themselves, sort of unprompted, how do you guys feel about that? On the gay apps, it's pretty common for guys, just that's their introduction. Hello, and then dick pic. But I don't like that. I think it's gross. I'm definitely sort of the demisexual variety. I need some kind of connection before I see the hoo-has and the wieners. Otherwise, it's gross to me. I mean, unless it's like some sort of extraordinary genital magnificence. That's the name of my new album.
So here's my bad first date story. My date took me to an oyster festival, and I had never had an oyster before. And I ate one and really just did not enjoy the sensory experience of eating the oyster at all. But then a few minutes later, I projectile vomited and got hives all over my body.
Oh, God.
So, turns out I'm allergic to shellfish.
Oh, no. What a way to find out. Oysters are, to me, I like eating foods, adventurous foods. Not that oysters are all that adventurous, but they're definitely one of those things that I can't think about it too much about what it is. I do like it. I think it is an enjoyable, tasty thing. It can't be too big. If I have to start chewing, because it's like a whole creature in your mouth. And sometimes it's like an entire slimy creature that slides into your mouth. If it's too big, it has to go down quickly. It's weird. I like it and I don't like it. To be honest, I eat eggs all the time, and if I think too much about what eggs are, it also is like it's kind of nasty. I guess a lot of food is like that. You know what? Being alive is nasty. I'm realizing we might be in trouble, you guys, because this is a little bit different. Just people sharing their stories. I'm flying through these a little quicker because they're not like questions. They're just stories, you know. How much can I say? Unless it's about oysters, and then I have quite a bit to say. How do you guys feel about oysters? Mussels are like that. What else is like that? Weird. Oh, you know what? I got on this weird kick of I was staying in a space that was a temporary space. It was actually with a theater. So they put me up in housing. So I was like going to the store to get like little snacks and things I could have in my room. And that entire run of the show, I got on this weird kick where I was eating a little microwave cup of macaroni and cheese with a tin of smoked oysters. That's disgusting, but somehow it was really tasty. What else is like that? The fine line between disgusting and tasty. Also, my next album.
Hi, Kevin. This is Jennifer from Los Angeles. I'm calling with my bad date story. So, years ago, before Uber was really around, I met somebody online and we made a plan to go on a date. But while we were planning it, he asked if I could pick him up. He said he had been in a car accident, and so he didn't have his car. But I did not feel comfortable picking up a stranger for our first date. So I asked him if there was another way he could get there. I asked if, was there any place within walking distance? And he said there was a Carl's Jr. That right there should have been it, but I was trying to date, so I agreed. And I get there, and he's pretty traumatized from this accident. He never wants to date, or he never wants to drive again. He just wants to get married and have someone drive him around. I was not interested in all that. So later I told a friend about the date, and she just said, "Promise me you'll never have a date at Carl's Jr. or any fast food again." And I agreed. She was right. And so that's my bad date story.
Was the wreck recent? I have a friend who got into a car wreck, and he was like that for a little while. Like every time he got into a car or had to drive, he got very anxious. Understandable. But is this like, because you're saying now he just wants to find someone to marry him to drive him around? Sometimes people aren't, well, I don't know. Who am I to judge? But Carl's Jr. is funny. Or like, yeah, meet me at Taco Bell. I guess it depends on how you want to present yourself. Maybe he was telling you who he is. Like, love it or leave it. Meet me at Hardee's. We're going to have a sausage breakfast biscuit. If you are in a position where you can't drive or you don't want to drive, I think you Uber to a better first impression, don't you think? If I was in that position, I think that I would choose like a lovely public outdoor space that maybe has a Starbucks nearby or something. Like a little mall area with a courtyard and a Starbucks. Because that's like, you don't want to go over the top. Like, yes, meet me at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. We're not going to eat. We're just going to meet in the lobby. Oh. Long pause.
I once went out on a date with a guy. I don't even remember his name anymore, but he was a friend of a guy my best friend was dating. And he picked me up in this brand new Cavalier that he was driving at the time when those were brand new and they were cool cars, and it was yellow. And he picked me up. I get in the car and he was wearing cat eye contacts. I can't make this up.
Oh, no.
And I barely could look at him in the eye because...
What? Oh, it cuts off. Why would you wear cat eye contacts for a first impression? Everyone's different. Again, maybe he's telling you who he is and what he's into right off the bat. It's good to know immediately. Don't whip out the cat eye contacts after you're a month in, if those are important to you. There was a guy, I used to work at this cafe in Nashville, and it was kind of an eccentric place anyway. It was open all night. It was one of the very few places that was open all night. So it drew in strange characters. But there was a guy who was a regular, and he would bring his dates to this cafe. But he liked to like vampire cosplay. And he would bring his dates to the cafe as a vampire. And sometimes you could tell it was, maybe kind of a goth girl. So maybe she was kind of into it. But once in a while, he would be there with a person, and you could sort of see on her face that she wasn't ready for the vampire cosplay. Cat eyes? What's that about? What is he telling you who he is? I'm a cat.
You are listening to the Call Kevin podcast.
So I live in LA, and I used to be a hostess at this like really cool restaurant on the west side, and this really cute dude came in, and I literally had just seen a movie with him the night before, and he came up to me and he gave me his phone number, and he was like, "Oh, you're so pretty. I would love to go out with you." And so naturally I called him. And we set up a date at a bar, and then I looked him up on IMDb. I IMDb'd him, and it said that
Oh, he was in the movie.
I was 22, I think. But he agreed to go to this bar. So I was like, maybe the IMDb is wrong. Maybe actors lie about their age, whatever. So we go to this bar, and I said, "Hey, I'm really confused because your IMDb says that you're 17, and I'm 22,
What?
so this is kind of weird."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh yeah, I am 17, but that's okay. You'll get over it." And I was like, "No, I won't. You are still in high school." And yeah, that was the last time we hung out, and he just won an Oscar. So
Oh.
how funny.
Oh, what? Hold on. Why did you go on? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm glad that was anonymous. Why did you go if you thought he might be 17? I guess, I don't know. No, I'm not saying anything. Oh my God. This show is scandalous. You know what I have to say? These are lovely little anecdotes. I'm having a hard time reacting to these. I'm just learning in real time. I got to be honest with you. I don't have a lot to say. I guess I don't, like embarrassing date stories. We all have them. Most of my stories are of some sort of cringe, embarrassing variety. I just don't have my dating life has been largely uneventful. I don't have a lot of horrifying date stories. I will say I was an early adopter of internet dating. If you remember when people really started getting online and maybe getting their own computer in their house before smartphones, really, I moved right after college. My parents bought me this giant beige Dell desktop computer that I used almost entirely for porn in the year 2000. Thanks, Mom and Dad, for that graduation present from college. A giant, huge, do you remember those computers? And I set it up in my new house, connected to dial-up internet, AOL, super slow, glitchy porn. But also, there was a website back in the day there was a couple. There was one called gay.com, and there was one called atomforatom.com. And it was like early matchmaking websites, but specifically for gay people. And I was, fairly new out of the closet. I was in a new city. I'm not a huge bar person. So it was a way to meet people. And it was not ever successful. Back when it was a thing that no one was really doing, one, there was stigma around it. I remember being a little self-conscious telling people how I would maybe meet a certain person. Because it seemed, when we were not really used to it, it seemed a little creepy. Do you guys remember this? Not everyone was doing it. It seemed almost like maybe you were desperate or something. And but the other thing I learned quickly, before we were savvy about it, almost always I would show up and the guy looked nothing like his picture. Because we weren't really tuned in to the intricacies of meeting someone from an internet picture. We're more clever about it now because now we know that, pretty much anyone can take a cute picture. I need angles. I need timestamps. It happened so many times where I showed up and I'm like, that is a picture from 15 years ago. Anyway, all that to say, we're blasting through these dating stories. I think I like the idea of subject prompts, but I need to make sure they are subjects that I can also respond to. I'm finding myself not really knowing what to say. I'm sorry, guys. Call Kevin is an experiment in progress.
I have set a timer for 1 minute and 15 seconds. When I heard my voice on your show a couple weeks ago, I had a bit of a meltdown because I did not realize how long I had gone on and how awkward I sounded. I'm still learning a lot of things. And I have come to an acceptance of the fact that I have a diagnosis of autism. I was diagnosed it was 17 years ago. And I didn't believe it. My parents told me it wasn't true. And they still believe it wasn't true. But I found out in my 20s that it's been on my medical records for years. And I've recently come to peace. And I'm in peace. Because I'm tired of running. I'm tired of... It doesn't make me a lesser person just makes me a different person. And that's okay. Just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that with us. And I'm glad that you are finding yourself a little more and knowing yourself a little better. But let me tell you this. If you feel like you sounded a certain way on the episode in the past, that's not your fault. And I learned quickly, I had the time limit set on the recorder at 5 minutes, which is too long for almost every human being on the planet. Because it's a rare skill for someone to be able to just off the top of their head start telling a story and make it succinct with the beginning, middle, and end. Almost no humans can do that. So early on in the first few episodes, I had the timer on the recorder set too long. That's not your fault. It's sort of a trap I unintentionally set for everyone to press record and then start rambling. Because that's what most people did in the 5-minute era. I have since shortened the call to 2.5 minutes. I think when people know they're on a quicker time thing, they speed it up and get to it quicker. So don't feel weird and don't feel bad. And that goes on for anyone in the early episodes. Because almost no one can do that. To just like start talking and make it to the point and punchy and thought out. Who can do that? I mean, I can, but let's do our community bulletin board every week. In lieu of paid advertisers, I'm shouting out your thing, your business, your blog, your MySpace, your OnlyFans, whatever it is. So here we go. Here's a few for this week. And again, this is just sort of a community bulletin board that you'd have at Starbucks or a local coffee shop. I don't know these businesses. I'm not familiar with these services. I'm just, you guys are listeners. I'm just sharing your things. So here we go. The Natural Bookkeeper offers remote services to small business owners and entrepreneurs that need a helping hand. I provide peace of mind by categorizing all transactions, managing AR and AP, sending monthly financial reports, basic payroll, and monthly reconciliation. My multi-talents include adapting to any financial software, not just QuickBooks. Open to anyone in the US, and the website is thenaturalbookkeeper.com. Maybe I need that. I'm not really good with that sort of thing, and I'm about to open a business called Shamala Hamala with a payroll and stuff. I've never done that before. A coworker of mine created the following nonprofit following the loss of her son, Isaac, to neuroblastoma, and is going through the process of having her Facebook page restored. Due to this, she's having a hard time with visibility and could use the community's help. The Isaac Strong Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit organization based in Rock County, Wisconsin. The foundation was founded in loving memory of Isaac, a vibrant and courageous boy who battled neuroblastoma. Diagnosed at just 2 years old, Isaac was a ray of sunshine who touched countless lives with his light and bravery. After gaining his angel wings in June of 2020, the foundation was created to honor his legacy and provide support to families navigating the challenges of childhood cancer. It does not give me a link. It's called the Isaac Strong Foundation. So maybe if you're interested in that, you could Google it. There's no link here. And lastly, I'm going to shout out my own business that is in the making. I've told you at the top of the show, I have been cooking on this idea for a while of a space. And it sort of begins with just my personal artistic interests. I used to have a photo studio back in my old town of Nashville, Tennessee. Some of you know I'm a photographer. Brings me a lot of joy. I really love photography, specifically film photography and developing film and that old school process of making pictures with analog technology. I really love it. And it's sort of a retirement vision for myself of just working in my darkroom and creating prints that I display in some sort of public way and maybe making them for sale in some way. But I like making art, especially in that fashion. So I have an entire studio of equipment, but it's all packed up in my closet back here behind me if you're watching on YouTube. And I would really like to set it up again and use it. So I am now in a new city, Cincinnati, Ohio, and I've been keeping my eyes peeled for a studio space to set up my equipment and start using it again for my own personal enjoyment, and then maybe to share it occasionally publicly. And as I've been looking at spaces in my neighborhood, some of them are really cute storefronts, some of them have really big open rooms, and it's inspired me more of like, oh, not only could this be my studio, I could do maybe little classes in here, little workshops. And a while back, I floated the idea of what if I did some sort of like Sunday, not religious gathering? Because a lot of people tell me the thing they miss about church is the built-in meeting people and socialization that you lose if you're not involved in some sort of church-like gathering. And as we get older, people have said right here on this show, it just gets harder and harder to meet people. So I floated that idea, and so many people responded. I was like, oh, I think I should do that. So that's become part of the vision as well as I'm looking at spaces. And like I said at the beginning of the show, every time I look at a new space, I'm like, oh, we could do this. Oh, we could do this. And so I'm in the process of doing that. It's happening. I am going to choose a place soon and get the ball rolling. I'm excited about it. And I have set up a little website if you'd like to learn more. It's shamalahamala.com. I am accepting contributions. I'm going to open the space by myself or with a community of people. I'll just be able to get there faster with your help. That's why I'm opening it up to contributions. I don't want any large contributions. I only want a bunch of small ones. That way, no single person is really risking too much, except for me. So if you go to shamalahamala.com, there's a place where you can sign up for the Shamalahamala email specifically to get updates about the space. And there's a very quick, easy way where you can throw in a $5, $10, $20 contribution to getting the space open quicker than I could do it on my own. And, everything I'm going to do there is going to be very outward focused. So even if you do not live in Cincinnati or in this area, you're still going to be able to enjoy the things that are created in that space. I'm planning on making a zine, a quarterly zine that will be mailed to your mailbox that has articles and stories about things we're working on in the space. Every quarter as well, there's going to be a brand new art opening, an art installation. We'll have photos of those art installations in the magazine that you can enjoy, and things like that. Things that you can enjoy from anywhere. And of course, I make social media content, so inevitably, you'll see content from the space and stories and things that are happening in Shamala Hamala. Maybe I'll even start recording this podcast there as well if there's space for it. So that's my little plug. Go to shamalahamala.com if you're interested in that at all.
So I love the advice that you had to give to the person who offered an open relationship and ended up getting cheated on, essentially, which was really, I really appreciate, your take that, like, you're not a therapist, but you think he should see one or she should see one, or, I just love that. I've been following you since the TikTok days, and I've seen you in Indianapolis. I respond to your lives. I'm the one who's always like, are you drinking Berry Bubbly? Because Berry Bubbly is fucking elite, and you have solidified that for me. So anyway, it's 1:30 a.m. I have slept all day because I'm sick and recovering from a virus, but I'm going to go downstairs and have a sparkling water for you. Bye.
I should tell you, well, this is all I'm drinking right now is just regular old water. But on lives, I do often enjoy, it's not just a berry bubbly, it's bubbly burst. They're probably terrible for you. Because they're sweet tasting. It's not sugar. It's, there's 0 calories. I tell myself it's better than a diet soda, which I do not touch Have I said this on a show? I feel like I have. I've always been prone to heart arrhythmias my whole life. It started when I was in college. I think I have told you this before. But I noticed over time that anytime I would have a diet soda, it would make my heart flutter. It's happened without fail. Like sometimes like enough time has passed. I'm like, I can have a diet soda. And then I drink one and an hour later, my heart is fluttering. So I don't touch the stuff. But now I've discovered Bubbly Burst. Is this show sponsored by Bubbly Burst? It is not. But I'm drinking them with caution because I am concerned that there might be some element in them that triggers my heart arrhythmias.
This is something that's kind of minor, but just at the dentist's office, I got to have some cavities taken care of, and I told them that I've been trying to stay away from candy or been staying away from candy, and when I went to pull out my phone to make another appointment, a bunch of candy wrappers fell out on the floor. Busted.
I love that kind of thing. I love like perfect comedic timing happening in real life. If that was a little hard to understand, but they were basically saying they were at the dentist and telling them they're staying away from candy for the health of their teeth. And then as she was paying, a bunch of candy wrappers fell out of her purse. I love that kind of thing.
If you'd like to make a call, please hang up and try again. Kevin, I have a very embarrassing story from my childhood.
I'm ready.
I was about 14 years old. I was with my parents. We went to this restaurant to order some, I don't remember what kind of food it was. I think it was a Mexican restaurant we used to frequent often. And everybody ordered what they wanted to drink. And when it was my turn, I told the waitress, I would like a Coke.
Oh, no.
And she just stared at me. She started to laugh. She had tears in her eyes. And, I was so humiliated and embarrassed. But I know that waitress to this day still remembers me and laughs about that time I asked for a Coke. Thank you for this moment.
That's one of those things that happens in your life when maybe you're not a fully formed human when you're younger, and it sticks in your head forever. That's first sort of embarrassing, especially if you're in front of your parents or something. Because that's just a funny thing. That really isn't that big of a deal. But if you were, 17, you might be like, oh my God, I totally said I wanted a cock. One time my uncle, we had gathered at Ponderosa for a post-holiday dinner. Like a bunch of people were in town for the holidays, and the holiday thing had already happened. I think the next day we all went to Ponderosa. And my uncle, we were standing in line, and my uncle was trying to tell my dad that for Christmas he got a box of 21 discs. If you remember back in the day, computers, much like the giant beige Dell desktop computer I had, you had to put a disc in them, a floppy disk. But my uncle completely clear as day said, for Christmas, I got a box of 21 dicks. And both my uncle and my dad, I could tell they like the look in their eyes. They were like, oh my God. Because I was standing right there and I was like 15. And I was like laughing uncontrollably. And they were trying to pretend that my uncle did not just say 21 dicks. I think I'm going to try that out sometime when I'm at a restaurant. I'm going to tell the server, I would like a cock. Also, not a Diet Coke that makes my heart flutter. You know what else makes my heart flutter? Never mind. I'm going down a weird path.
I got asked on a blind date, and we met at a local Chinese buffet called Dong's. And I was waiting for him, and I knew as soon as he pulled up, I knew it was him, and I was mortified. It was like this borderline monster truck, and I was like, oh wow, okay, sure, why not? But I was also broke and wanted to eat dongs, so we went
What is happening on
inside
this show?
and turns out dude's super religious, and we go in, get our plates of crap, and sit down, and he takes my hand, and I just met this dude, and he starts praying loudly at dongs at a Chinese buffet, and he's like, "Oh Lord, thank you for this woman," and I am fucking mortified. Like, I knew people in there. It's a small town, and I'm looking around, and while he's preaching about dongs and praying, and people are staring at me like, "Get out." And yeah, so I filled up with dongs, and then that was it. I never saw him again. Thanks, Kevin.
You know, people
Bye.
just telling you who they are on the first date. I wonder how many times in my life where it was like a first date and someone just went ahead and told me something that for me would have been a red flag, but I overlooked it because I wanted to be loved. Someone grabbing your hand and praying loudly while wearing cat eye contact lenses at a Carl's Jr. Run. That reminded me one time. So there was this project I was working on. It was a photography project, actually. And there was this guy who was a little bit younger than me. Let me just say right up front, I'm not one of those people who are like after younger people. I mean, like, you know, consent, legal age younger. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. Not like that earlier caller who met a 17-year-old on the internet. I'm not someone who am out for, you know, I'm 51 and I'm not, you know, to me, I think like 10 years in either direction is cool. But anyway, I was working on this project, and this guy that was working on the project as well, he was like maybe like 28 or something. And it felt like he was being flirty the whole day. And I wasn't interested or trying anything. He was very cute. And I was like, is he flirting with me? It kind of feels like he's flirting with me, but whatever. And then at the end of the day, everyone else was already gone. It was just me and him at the end of the day, like kind of wrapping up. And he like kind of stands close to me and he's like, hey, can I, and then he's like kind of a little too close to me. He's like, would you mind if I, and I'm like, oh my God, is he about to kiss me? What's about to happen? And he's like, can I pray with you? And he didn't know anything about my story, of all people to ask me that. But it's funny because I thought he was about to, he was getting really close and he was like, hey, can I, after a day of what felt like flirting. Anyway, he's like, can I pray with you? And I didn't want to hurt his feelings or make him feel stupid. So I was like, sure. And he grabbed my hand, and again, at the top of his lungs, he grabbed my hand and he was like, hallelujah, and started like praying like in sort of a charismatic Pentecostal way. Just me and him standing there at the end of the day, holding hands, praying to Jesus. What do we have here?
Hello. This is my disastrous date story. It's more like in a booty call, to be honest. So
Perfect.
I was seeing this guy for quite a while. I messaged him to say that I would be at his in about 20 minutes. We had arranged to meet up, and it was basically going to be a night of fun, if you obviously see what I'm saying. So I get there, and he's not responding to my calls or texts or anything. So I just kind of wait outside. He lives with his parents, so I figure maybe he's busy or, you know, whatever, something like that. And then after quite a while, he comes out and he's looking quite sheepish and embarrassed. So he beckons me inside, and where he lives is kind of in the garden. He has his own living quarters. They basically have a pool house kind of thing in the garden, and his bed and his stuff is in that house.
They do that
That's
in
kind of
Los
his
Angeles
room.
quite a bit.
It's outside. So I go into the garden to his pool house room, and immediately when I go inside, I notice this really distinct, rather horrible smell. So I go in and I'm like, oh my God, what happened? Like, what's that smell? Is everything okay? And then he basically tells me that when I messaged him to say that I was 20 minutes away, instead of, like putting the kettle on, like what a normal person would do, he decided that he wanted to use this kind of contraption that penetrates
I have no idea what's about to happen.
orifices. And he wanted to use it on himself.
What?
Before I came over. He's bisexual, by the way, just so
That
there's a
doesn't
bit of
matter.
context. So what he did was he decided that he would first douche and then use a contraption. So he went to the shower, got the shower head off, so it was just a pipe, stuck it in himself, turned the water on, left the bathroom when it was all done, went to his living quarters, and he kind of went on the bed, bent over, and everything just came out. And he effectively shat the bed. And then what he did was got the bed sheets, bunched them up, and stuck them outside under the bench in the garden. And I finished with him shortly after that.
What? Had he ever done this before? That's not how you do it. Also, I have so many questions. Why did he, if you're on your way over 20 minutes, okay, great, to the bathroom, was he like trying to just get like warmed up or something? For anyone who is interested, after you insert the water, you then go release the water. Or else that will happen to you. Oh my God. What is this show? What's happening? Okay.
Hi, Kevin.
Hi.
I'm going to try to speed run through this story, but
No
it's
need.
about me
Plenty of
having a
time.
bad date and embarrassment on the same night. So, several years ago, I had been dating this guy for about 4 or 5 months, and we'd been seeing each other regularly and talking pretty much every day, but we were not exclusive. We hadn't had that conversation. That becomes important. One night he asked me if I wanted to go for some drinks at this local bar, and I said, sure. So I met him over there, and we sat down at the bar, and he knew the bartender. So he introduces us, and we have a drink, and then we order a second round of drinks, and he's like, I got to go to the bathroom. Well, like 15, 20 minutes pass, and he's not back from the bathroom. So I text him, and I'm like, where are you? Is everything okay? And he texts me back and says, I rented an e-bike and went home.
Oh.
And I was like, what? Why? And he texts me back and says, I don't know. I hate it. I hate it when I do this. And I'm like, how often do you do this? How often do you ghost someone that you've been seeing and you don't have any problems with each other just in the middle of a date? It was ridiculous. Well, unbeknownst to him, I had also been seeing this other guy because we weren't exclusive, right?
The plot thickens.
And that other guy had invited me to a barbecue that night, but I said I couldn't go because I was hanging out with one of my girlfriends. Well,
Lies.
after I got ghosted in the middle of a date, I called him and I was like, you know what? I am going to come to that barbecue. So I go over there, and the first person I see when he's taking me around to introduce me to people, the first person I see was the bartender from my failed date with guy number one. So I had to sit there and hang out like nothing was wrong for 2 or 3 hours. But
Bartenders
after
don't
I
care.
left, the bartender friend told him what was going
Oh, he
on,
did
and
care.
I got busted, which was embarrassing.
Oh my
So,
God.
ghosting and embarrassment on the same night.
This show is scandalous. I think what we've learned so far is that people are damaged. People want to be loved. People want cock. This is a good time for a dance break.
In your car, in your office.
right. What else we got here?
If you need help, hang up and then dial your operator. Thank you.
I work at a university, and I went on a date with this guy who had, messaged on the apps and talked on the phone a couple times. Seemed fine. We go hit up a popular local taco spot. But when he arrived on the date, he just, he didn't look his best. He looked really disheveled. He was wearing a very odd outfit. Like he was wearing sweatpants with a polo shirt, like tucked into sweatpants. And his facial hair and his beard were kind of like unkept and a little bit like mangy. And he had a bag with him, but it was like, which is fine, like carry a bag, carry your stuff, but it was like a child-sized backpack kind of a thing. So it was very odd. And the date was super awkward and didn't go well. But on the date, my student worker showed up with her boyfriend to eat at the same taco spot. And, she stopped and said hi to me. They went inside and had their dinner. Also, while I was there, the dean of the college came by, walked by and said hi to me. And I typically don't run into folks when I'm out and about, but, I just so happened to. But on Monday when I got back to the office, my student worker was telling everyone that I'm a really great person because I treated a homeless man to lunch. Because they thought that the guy I met up with was homeless because he looked so unkempt. And she and her boyfriend stayed at the taco place as long as we were there so that they could keep an eye on me and make sure I was okay. So, anyways, Shamala Hamala by Kevin.
What I'm realizing, and I've not really, like I told you, back in the day, I used to go on little blind internet dates all the time, and they never were good. And it's because you can't really get the sense of who a person is through a computer screen. That's why you end up on dates that you would never really go on. It's like such an inorganic way to meet someone. And if you just look at a picture and then read a blurb, you sort of read the blurb in the voice of someone that you would like. And you sort of look at the picture you sort of superimpose the sort of person that you would say yes to. And then you show up and they're not that because you didn't get any of the pheromones, you didn't get any of the subtle body language. That's why it doesn't work. Really rarely. You end up on dates that you would never say yes to.
Hi, Kevin. So I know you worked at Olive Garden, so you have many an Olive Garden story.
I sure do.
But were you ever proposed to in an Olive Garden parking lot?
Yes.
We were super fundamentalist church kids when it was it was actually 2006.
It was the 90s.
We did that thing where you want to get married too young for reasons. I think he didn't want to be publicly embarrassed, or maybe he wasn't sure if I wanted a public engagement in front of Olive Garden strangers, like he claimed. Either way, he pulled the ring out of a Tupperware after dinner, out of a Tupperware that was stashed in the back seat of his mom's car. I did want to get married to him, so I said yes in the parking lot of Olive Garden. We were broke and moderately happy for the better part of a decade until we weren't. So no longer together. But every time I pull into an Olive Garden parking lot, I get a good little chuckle.
Oh, I loved that story. That had just adorable details and reminded me of another time in life. That's that thing of looking back at eras in your life that are bittersweet. I loved that. That was the human experience right there.
So there was this guy, super hot, friends with my brother, and I knew he was totally into me. So he called one night to hook up after I had gotten out of work. So we both met each other in this like wooded spot, and we start going, and it was the worst sex of my life. And when he got up to leave, I reached back in the car to get his wallet, and there were skid marks all over my driver's seats.
What?
So my friend lived about 10 minutes away from where we were. So I called her screaming, and I had to drive to her house with my ass in the air. And then she helped me OxyClean and Febreze my car seat. He called the next day, didn't say anything specific, just said, I guess I blew it.
What? I don't think I understand straight people. Skid marks. Well, okay, hold on. Let's recap. You went to the woods and had terrible sex in the woods. And then you reached back for the wallet and there were skid marks in the driver's seat. I don't understand. What are the skid marks from? Can someone tell me what the skid marks are from? Okay. Let's take our final call.
Hey, Kevin, it's Conrad. So I deconverted from Christianity about 4 years ago. And I was just thinking about this while I listened to your podcast. Actually, so there's two things that I think really changed for me in kind of my day-to-day living. One of them was my thought life, because I would always be having this inner dialogue with Jesus. It's like my thought process. Everything is kind of filtered through this conversation I have with Jesus, with God, and asking him like what he thinks, and having this kind of internal like debate about decisions and etc. Or I would go to him when I'm feeling down for encouragement and all these things. And it was just this very developed process in my mind. When I stopped believing, then it was it was like a breakup. Like I was getting to the point, I came to the point of just admitting that this is my own thoughts that I am just labeling as him. But I had developed like such a strong connection and dependency on this person in my mind that I was having to say goodbye to. And it's just this really sad, strange process of kind of letting that good friend in my mind just kind of disappear. And now I just have my own thoughts. So the second thing was actually I would always listen to worship music. And when I deconverted, I stopped listening to worship music and I started listening to a Spotify playlist called Irish Instrumentals, and I've been playing it like every day since. And my family is very familiar with Irish instrumental music. It's very funny. Anyway, those are the two things that just came to mind. Yeah, thanks for this platform, Kevin. Okay, bye.
I understand what you were talking about so well. For me, it was more from this angle that back in the day when I was 19 years old, every thought that I had, we were supposed to be led by the Holy Spirit. Or if it was a bad thing, you were being tempted by the devil. And every interior thought was one or the other. And if I had the urge to try something or to go do something, it immediately took on this over the top importance. And I did my whole life, I've lived a pretty wild life, and I've moved a million times, and I've gone different places and tried different things. And when I was younger, it would be I think maybe I want to move to New York City after high school, except now it's the Holy Spirit has told me I have to go to New York City after high school. Everything was like that level. So all of my interior thoughts was like this direct tap into God telling me what to do. And it's that's a wild way to live. And when I went away to college, I've told this story many times, but I sort of fled my hometown with a shred of myself and went away to college very instinctively. I just knew I had to get away. And I showed up in this new place with all these people who weren't doing that. Like people who weren't having a nonstop private conversation with like the deity of the universe. They were just having people thoughts or whims or just, interior things going on in your mind. It really wasn't always of any significance. That was a real new thing for me. And I really didn't know who I was, or I didn't really know how to even live. But today, I find a lot of comfort. How do I say this? Maybe comfort's not the right word. When I think about, my private thoughts are really just that. They're just my thoughts. They weren't from God. They're just from me. And I'm this small little creature who is just here for a moment on this planet hurtling through space. It's humbling and a little scary and a little sad in a bittersweet way. It makes me want to hold on and value every single thing that happens in this short, tiny little life. I'm super grateful. And I'm grateful for you guys for hanging out with me for another episode. Thanks.
It was the 90s.
If you want to ask a question or tell a weird story about skid marks in your car, go to kevinjamesthornton.com and let me hear it. Also, please come see one of my shows coming up. If I'm coming to your city, you'll have a good time, you'll laugh. And we all need to do that right now, is to laugh. Thanks for hanging out. Have a great week.